Even Putin is realizing the significance of talks. Guess who isn't? Canada's Justin Trudeau. He's preparing for an all-out offensive against the protesters. On Tuesday, he acquired his greatest weapon, the emergency powers. This means Trudeau can ban protests. He can take over private resources. He can stop people from traveling. Basically, he can crush the freedom convoy, end the blockades by force. But Canada's opposition has a worrying question. What if the extreme measures make things worse?
The Prime Minister thinks that now is the time to use this extreme measure and invoke the Emergencies Act. Isn't it true that the Prime Minister's actions could serve to actually make things worse and not make things better?
It's a fair point, a fair question. A crackdown may have worked last month. Back then, the Freedom Convoy was just settling in. Well, now they have set up shop. Rifles and machetes have been found on protesters. So Trudeau's move could well backfire. Does he have a contingency plan? The Prime Minister was about to address that in Parliament when this happened.
Mr. Speaker, this is about keeping Canadians safe, protecting their communities and neighbourhoods, and ensuring jobs and our economy.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt the Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'm trying to hear the answer, and I'm having a very difficult time. There's some shouting going on.
This is a time for responsible leadership, not crass partisanship. The situation requires additional tools not held by other federal, provincial, or territorial law. It's what responsible leadership requires.
Responsible leadership, he says. This was bound to happen. Declaring an emergency is a very big deal, you see. You're acquiring sweeping powers. You're suspending democracy. Does the situation in Canada warrant such harsh measures? In some places, yes. Near the border, things are escalating fast. The blockade is affecting bilateral trade. Many trucks are unable to cross over into the U.S., and this delay could mean massive losses. The U.S. and Canada trade goods worth $511 billion. That's around $1.4 billion per day. And out of this, 323 million is transported through one route. It's called the Ambassador Bridge, the same bridge that was blocked for days by the Freedom Convoy. So the economic cost is real. Plus, on Monday, there was worrying news. Guns, ammunition and body armors were found on protesters. You see, Canada's gun laws are strict, but America's are not. If weapons start flowing in from America's border states, things could get out of hand. So in these parts, an emergency may work. But what about in the cities? There, the character of protests is different. Let me show you some pictures from Ottawa. The protesters are largely peaceful. They're bringing giant teddy bears with them. I know it looks fun and harmless, but as we keep saying, these protesters are anti-vaxxers, and they're putting others at risk. They may not be violent, but their demand is unacceptable. Now, Justin Trudeau says the emergency will not apply everywhere. It will be time and geography bound. But we know how these things play out. There is violence. There are trigger-happy police officers. It happens all over the world. And Canada cannot be an exception. So how Trudeau's emergency plays out will have to be seen. But that's not the only question. What about accountability? Who will answer for the days of blockade and violence at the border? For all the picketing? For all the obstructions to daily life? First in the line of fire was Ottawa's police chief, Peter Slawley. He resigned on Tuesday, and frankly, it was not surprising. Since January, Ottawa was not under his control. It was under the Freedom Convoy's control. Some truckers harassed the residents. They raided food banks. They intimidated people on the streets. What was the police doing when all of this happened? Missing in action, and you cannot really blame them. Their Prime Minister himself fled his residence. So what can you expect the police to do? The fact is, Trudeau himself must take responsibility. First, he mocked the anti-vaxxers. Then he let the Freedom Convoy grow. And now he's planning a full-blown crackdown. The emergency may end the protests. But Canada still has a choice to make. Do they want to stick with this indecisive and clueless Prime Minister? WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.